Here is the 2025 Honda Civic Sport Hatchback. This year we finally get a hybrid which gets 50 mpgs. That is crazy, with 200 horsepower. And with the hatchback, they've also lowered the trim choice. You only have 3 different options. The Sport is the only way that you can get a non-hybrid. I'm Anthony from Hawkeye Rides, and I'm gonna go over some pros and cons and the problem that I have with the 25 model. Starting in the front, all trims get LED headlights that integrate into the more aggressive grille. The lower keeps the honeycomb brushing into the air vent, and you have that little splitter with the spoiler that makes it look a little bit more aggressive. And what I like about the Sport trim is it takes all of the essence from last year, putting it onto this, but at a base tier, giving us the 2.0 liter inline 4-cylinder, producing 150 horsepower with 133 pound-feet of torque, and that's paired to a CVT transmission or a continuously variable transmission. Now, the hybrid variant has a 200 horsepower total net with 232 pound-feet of torque. That's achieving 50 over 45 mpg. So it's going to be night and day difference in the sense of this. But all trims will have an 18-inch wheel setup with the McPherson strut front suspension and a multi-link rear suspension, gloss black for the side view mirror, and it will all be heated standard. Now, the integrated LED turn signal only on the hybrid Sport Touring trim. Now, that's going to lead me to the problem. You have to go to the Sport Hybrid Touring in order to get all the features for the hatchback. I'm okay with having 3 different options, but I just would like to have some of those features filter in or give us options, because you only get 1 trim for the gas non-hybrid variant. But I mean, let me know your thoughts on that. Moonroof, that's going to start on the Sport Hybrid. Shark fin antenna is going to be standard on all trims, and because it's a hatch, you're going to have more cargo capacity. Going against competition like Toyota, we now have a variant that can go against the Prius. You're going to have more cargo capacity. It's going to look a little bit more sporty instead of looking like a Crown in a smaller package. So I do like what Honda is doing, and a few years back when they did the refresh. The Civic is where they took all the good bits to put into vehicles like the HRV and the CRV. So you're having a lot of those style elements passed on through there and giving that European design, which I think they nailed it with this hatch. It's a more grown-up design. The rear hatch door is 20% lighter from carbon materials. It's 1.6 inches wider for the opening, so it makes it a little bit easier for the day in and day out. And comparing this to Toyota, Hyundai, and Mazda, this is going to be the best option for MPGs for a non-hybrid, standard LED taillights on all trims. The lower gets the diffuser and a shelf that mimics exhaust tips, and because it's not a turbocharged, I'm all right with not having it. It's a CVT transmission. You're not going to be taking this on the track. You're using this vehicle for practicality, and I like that you have that option so you don't have to go into a full hybrid variant. Quick release. Going into 24.5 cubic feet, you get a privacy cover on the top here and one here. Underneath the floor, gets a spare tire. And because I'm tall, I'm gonna split fold the rear bench in the back to maximize the cargo capacity. And that's the nice thing about these hatchbacks. You just have a ton of space, especially with the opening. The key fob for the Civic hatch. Manual seat adjustment for the driver as well as the passenger. 8-way power seat adjustment is going to be on the Sport Hybrid with heated front seats. Leather wrap will be on the Sport Touring trim. Let's fire it up. The dashboard is going to be more simplified. It's a flat layout with the honeycomb design that goes into the air vents with the gloss black. Single climate control, dual climate control starts on the hybrid Sport trim. 8 speakers with 180 watts. That's going to be standard going into the Sport Hybrid. Sport Hybrid Touring is going to have the 12 speakers through Bose as well as the auto dimming rear view mirror, and a moonroof will be on the Sport Hybrid. Standard 7-inch infotainment screen with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. Wireless goes onto the hybrid trim. Put it into reverse, and you get a reverse camera with trajectory that expands when you turn the wheel, and you can click these little sub menu here to change the layout for the reversing. Wireless charging pad is going to be on the Sport Hybrid. USB ports, 12 volt. Leather is going to be on the shifter standard with a leather wrap steering wheel that's 3-spoke. Also on the Sport Touring, you'll have that with the paddle shifts. The gauge cluster has a digital reader, but the 10.2 digital cluster is only going to be on the Sport Touring Hybrid. Driving mode select, which you have a total of 3 driving modes, including Sport, Normal, Econ, with brake hold, so you don't have to hold the brake when you're at a stoplight. Once you come to a stop, all you'd have to do is engage the gas pedal to engage it with the Sport pedals. It's going to be more soft, opens up into a medium-sized storage pocket. You can move this back or forward. Headroom, that's what I like about these hatchbacks. The same thing with leg space, and because I'm tall, I can easily use the side or the center cluster to rest my knees, and it's the same thing for the passenger. You just have a ton of room. Door panel and dash configuring together, and you're going to have soft materials where it needs to be, one touch up and down for the front windows with a medium-sized storage pocket. To go into the back, gotta unlock it. To go into the back, that's the space that you have to fit 3 more. The Sport Hybrid will have a armrest with cup holders. There is no charging ports or air vents going to be in the center, nor storage behind any of the front seats. Headroom, it's actually pretty good. Same thing with leg space. The door is going to be the same materials, except they strip the cloth out here, but they keep it nice and soft here with a smaller size storage pocket sliding into the center. The floor isn't completely flat. You're going to be sharing feet, butt, leg, and shoulder space, but because these are cloth seats, you kind of sit inward, so it's actually a little bit more comfortable than the leather, giving you optimal headroom. 2.0 liter with 150 horsepower and 133 pound-feet of torque. I know it doesn't sound like a lot to motivate the vehicle, but it truly is. This is a small vehicle, so you don't need a lot of motivation, and it's for a day in and day out use. So you're looking for a practical vehicle. I mean, you're getting 30 mpgs for the city, 38 mpgs for the highway. That itself is a huge deal for me, because when you're thinking about the extra space you have, because it's a hatchback, it just makes it in line. And the vehicle is under 3,000 pounds. So yet again, it's going to be quick going in and out of traffic. Now, it's not going to be as potent as the hybrid with 200 horsepower and 232 pound-feet of torque, because that's a crazy amount. I mean, you got nearly 100 pound-feet of torque more going that route, but look what she got. Get up to speed fine. You sit lower, it feels more sporty. You're gonna feel a little bit of the imperfections here and there because you have 18-inch wheels and there's no way around that. The sound deadening, it's okay, it's not too bad. It's the only option though, which is going to lead me to some pros and cons. The pros is at least we still have a non-hybrid variant for people that do not want to go that route, and you're getting great MPGs. The interior, it's comfortable. It's nothing over the top. The con, you don't get any features when you go this route. It literally is base, which puts you into a hybrid variant, unfortunately. And we're gonna obviously do the hybrid review. Just right now, there is a recall on the fuel pumps. Not something to be concerned about. I actually like that Honda is going that extra step in fixing it before they sell the vehicle, so that way you don't buy it and then have to come back with your brand new vehicle that doesn't even have 100 miles to get something repaired. So it's a good thing that Honda is doing that, but in the same category, I would like to see features at least as an option when I'm in the sport trim. The windscreen is large. The side windows, same thing. It doesn't look that way on the exterior, so I like that it still keeps the sporty vibe for a 5-door hatchback, but yet everyone can fit in this vehicle, even though it has that European design styling, which typically what happens with hatchbacks, for the backseat occupants, it can get a little tight. It's not going to be the case here, but they don't give you an armrest. You have to go into the Sport Hybrid in order to get that. Turn radius at more or less the stop point is going to be about 2 lanes, and we got to rock and roll. And we're doing this and still getting near 30 mpgs. That's the best part about this. Some other cons is you get a standard 7-inch infotainment screen. You have to go into the top tier in order to get the 9-inch. The same thing for the 10.2 gauge cluster. I kind of wish that they would just synchronize the 7 or 9-inch in the dashboard, because it's been a few years now that we've had this refresh. I like how simplified it is and it's cleaned up, and it does give you a pretty decent amount of storage capacity, especially if you are considering optioning the Accord. You can go this route and you can still fit everybody in the vehicle. Now, going into competition, Mazda is going to be super tight in the back seat, especially for anyone that's over 6 foot tall. There's a lot of blind spots here. You don't actually have that. You're also getting better MPGs, but you can get a sportier drive there going into the turbo variant. And once you're in the hybrid category, you don't usually look at getting a turbocharged vehicle, because now you're looking to get great MPGs. But if you are shopping around between the two, that's going to be a more sporty drive, even though this has a multi-link rear suspension. As for the Corolla, going to be tight in the front and the back. Your knees are going to be sitting upwards a little bit more if you're over 6 foot tall in the front seat, whereas here the seat actually is the most comfortable in class, even comparing this against Hyundai. There's no driver focus setup, so it's easy for the passengers to access the infotainment screen for the radio, but then you can't get wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. You have to go to the top tier in order to get it. Another thing that I kind of wish, if they're going to integrate it this way, I mean, they need to give us features. I like that it's only 3 trim choices though, so it does make it a little bit easier for the buyer perspective. But the biggest problem that I have is that they just are pushing out the non-hybrid variant. If you want this vehicle, you can't get the Bose, you can't get the upgraded infotainment screen, you can't get heated front seats, you can't get a moonroof, nor can you get an auto-dimming rear view mirror. I mean, some of these things it should at least implement, because they only option 1 trim. But if you are looking for the hybrid variant, they finally have outdone Toyota, at least with the specs on paper. When I get my hands on it, that's when I'll actually be able to tell you if it's a better drive. But considering how well the seat comfort is for Honda in general, they typically are a little bit more comfortable in the interior, especially giving you a little bit more space. And because I'm tall, it makes it easier to drive, so I'm not getting uncomfortable for that long journey. As for Hyundai, I think they're doing an excellent job with their hybrid variants, and they have come up a long way, especially giving you the most features for price. But to go away from that driver-focused setup, because this is an everyday vehicle, I think Honda does a little bit better job in that aspect. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Check out the next video, merchandise, website, and Instagram. Leave a comment and a like, and I'd like to thank Regal Honda for giving us this 2025 Honda Civic Hatchback Sport for our car review.